The Buzz with Jess Lujan.
We're back with my in-studio guest, Dr. Ron McNish. And of course, we're talking about the results of not only local, but hopefully we'll touch on the national elections as well. Doc, we were talking just before the break about, again, maybe reasoning behind why incumbents were unseated.
Sure. And so let's assume that Tina makes it. Wonderful lady, she makes it, barely edges out the new guy. That's Joseph Augustine, okay? So that would leave 3 and 3. That would leave 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans. Among the 3 Democrats, Roy Respicia was the majority leader, took a lot of pressure, a lot of brunt from the negatives toward the legislature. He kind of was the focus of a lot of the negatives, and I think that was unfair. I think that he was unfairly treated in that regard, and that really hurt him.
Okay.
Then that leaves Senator Underwood and Speaker Wampat. This is the 3rd speaker I've seen unseated in the last 20 years.
I was at the 28th, going into the 28th when, Speaker Ben Pangilinan was unseated as well.
Right, and Speaker Don Parkinson lost in '96. So this is the 3rd one. So speakers often bear the brunt of the blame for things, along with the majority leader. And so Speaker Wampat, who's both in education, she should have been very safe. All of our polling showed Wampat and Underwood were right in the middle or above, and so they were doing fine. And then it comes out right the day before the election, oh, the Fernandez hearing is going to happen, and they plummeted. They fell through the floor. Even our exit poll didn't pick this up.
Yeah.
And part of it was bullet voting. That is, people appeared to have voted for 1 or 2 candidates, particularly new candidates, and so that had that effect. So then if we look at the Republican folks on the other side, Brant McCready had, from what I understand, a sick family member. He was off island. He wasn't really able to campaign strongly. He finished last, mainly because of personal reasons. And so that leaves Tony Atta and Frank Blas. Tony Atta and Frank Blas, unfortunately, both of their fathers died. Their fathers were real advisors to these gentlemen. They were really good at helping them out. And so that was part of the formula of maybe where they campaign-wise might not have optimized their campaigns. But also, Frank Blas came out with a bill right before the election on the Catholic Church, which was unpopular in his core support group. So that attrited his vote significantly. And then Tony Atta, I have no idea what happened to him. I don't think he was blamed for the pay. For some reason, he never showed up very well. I thought it was his name confusion. I thought he'd pop up. But the whole polling cycle, he never showed up very well.
Never showed up, yeah.
And he hardly ever broke the top 20.
Yeah, so actually, that was the one thing consistent, and you always said that, I mean, when you poll the people, his name always appeared different than what people know him as. But of course, when they went in to vote, his name versus what he's known as well appears to that. So it's consistent with his polling. His polling numbers was consistent with his placing. Yeah.
Right, and that was all along the continuum. And so so if that's the effect, then given these last-minute efforts against the senators, particularly not the advertising is just noise.
Sure.
Right, and that might affect a few votes, but the big shift happened because of the education board.
So again, so the makeup, you have a lot of actually half of the legislature are new, basically. And so when you go in there, what do you think that climate is going to be like going into, again, the 34th Guam legislature, and knowing that next 2 years it's going to be a gubernatorial election as well? What do you think that flavor is going to be? You think you see more cooperation with the legislature and the administration? How's that going to work out? Because we have actually 2 guys. We have Tony Atta and Frank Blas Jr., who has been talked about as names out there as running for governor or lieutenant governor. Looks like they're not going to.
You never know.
That. Well, never know. Yeah.
You fall down, you get back up.
That's right. But probably not as loud anymore. Their names are probably not as loud anymore. But that being said, what do you think is going to be like? Because the Democrats have an opportunity to take this all the way to 2018. Yeah.
No, I think that here's what I think. I think there'll be a brand new speaker. That's the first thing.
Sure.
And it depends on who that speaker is. I think probably it'll be Frank Uggan or B.J. Cruz. I think that B.J. Cruz, if Frank Uggan wants to run for governor in 2 years or lieutenant governor in 2 years, he probably shouldn't be speaker. You shouldn't be speaker
if you want to be governor.
If you want to be governor, right? And so at least in the current age. So that's the first thing. Second thing is this group of new legislators, they've got to be different than the people they're replacing. They've got to act differently, they've got to approach things differently, and they have to avoid this groupthink within the legislature where they're told what they can and cannot do. You know, everyone thinks that when you get into a legislature, you become powerful, you have power. That's not true. There are strong boundaries on elected leaders. The problem that this new group's going to have to overcome is the inertia of the legislative bureaucracy and have the courage to actually address concerns that the people want addressed and not play games. And that's what people are tired of. And then we were talking earlier also about the national election.
Sure, yeah, national elections, now that the results come in, I mean, there's still a lot of upset people, but, you know, from what I'm hearing, again, President Obama, Clinton, they've all said, hey, look, and from what I'm hearing from Trump, looks like, again, I mean, it's sounding good. The governor of Guam, of course, endorsed President-elect Trump. He and the governor of the CNMI were heading up his re-election committee in this part of the world. So I'm optimistic. What are your thoughts?
I think Donald Trump's going to be fine. I think that his approach is a little bit different. You don't become a successful business person and be Godzilla, and that's the reality. And people are afraid that the venomous media that associated this election, they think it's true. I don't think it's true. I think he's just as rational. I think his approach is different, but I think he's going to be just as rational and just as deliberate as any other U.S. president. I think that the hype and the scandalous media, and in fact the pollsters and the media totally dropped the ball. This is another 1948, this past election. 1948, Truman holds up the sign, Dewey defeats Truman, because the pollsters and the media thought Dewey had won the election. You know, back in January of this year, I told everyone, and I even made a video of it, Donald Trump could very well win this election. They better get ready for it. And the reason is he was a media person who was in everyone's living room every week, and people feel that they know him, and that touched on a key core. And by the way, there are certain minorities who are upset about this, or for example, African Americans. If you simply look at African American contestants on his show, Omarosa and some of the others, they love Trump. And so I don't know. I think that it's going to be an interesting next 4 years, and it's going to be different. And people, both in the Guam legislature and within the White House, want different. They don't want the status quo anymore. They want action. They want someone to do something. And really, if we could epitomize the Guam legislature in this election, it was because they didn't do anything. It wasn't the pay raises. It's that they got the pay raises and then they didn't do anything. That's what the rub was.
What do you think is going to happen with the marijuana situation here? I mean, a bunch of the states voted either recreational or medicinal marijuana. You know, here we had direct democracy 2 years ago. We voted for medicinal marijuana. Now the rules and regs, that's kind of in limbo. We don't know what that's going to be taken up in this, you know, the lame duck session. And then if the author of the bill, you know, is out of this legislature, what's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen with the medicinal marijuana?
Well, I think that she will be back in. That's why, you know, I'm willing to bet a favorite soft drink on that. Okay. Or other drink. But the thing is, I think that the problem with medical marijuana is people, you know, I'm going to tell you, people are dying of cancer. I was on the American Cancer Society for 4 years. I was president. If people are dying of cancer and they feel that medical marijuana is going to make them feel better, give it to them. Forget about this Mickey Mouse bureaucratic junk and noise coming out of various areas.
I hear you.
And I think that's what people said. We're tired of it. Time out. If people are really sick, give them their medicine and quit this Mickey Mouse BS that you're doing, okay? That's the first thing. On the other hand, the third rail of medical marijuana is the implication that came up during this time. Well, if we can't pass medical marijuana because of bureaucracy, just open up marijuana for everybody. That was the wrong move. Well, public opinion does not support that on Guam right now. And no way it does. And so recreational marijuana, bad news. Medical marijuana, people are really sick and they have real illnesses. I'm going to tell you, I have 18 and 19-year-old kids who think that they can smoke marijuana because they think that they're sick or there's something wrong with them. And you know, that excludes them from a whole bunch
Sure,
of
sure.
nice jobs
Sure,
when they use
sure,
marijuana
sure.
or when they're active with marijuana. And we have to say, time out, young
Yeah.
people. Don't crawl into a bottle and go into alcoholism early. Don't ruin your life due to illegal drugs also. Same thing.
Sure, sure,
And we have to be tough. We have to talk tough with our young people and say, look, this is how life is. This is how reality is. And you know what? Between you and me, this is how politics is.
That's right. That's right. So, Doc, again, thank you very much. But looking towards 2018, just a far look again.
Yeah.
You think we're going to have a contested race in the Republican?
I think we're going to have a new governor. And,
Okay.
Democrat or Republican.
We have a
I
new
think-
governor.
I think
That's for sure, right?
That's for
Yeah,
sure.
That's for sure. We could. I think we both agree on that.
After this election,
we're gonna
I'm
have a
out of
new
the
governor.
prediction
You're out of
business.
prediction business. Okay. Anyway, we'll come back as we get closer to that. Let's figure out who is definitely going to be 15 or 16, right? After that. But thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, sir.
That's going to do it for now. But join me tomorrow on The Buzz, and we'll talk about this and whatever else you want to talk about. But it's good night for now.
Close